Well, the first thing I want to tell you today is I found the most insane thing ever said on television, ever. And I wouldn't insult your intelligence. I know you're not watching The View. I totally understand that. And I really try to keep, like, the insanity that gets said and shown on The View. I really try not to talk about it too much, but this was just too good. This was just insane. Also, Trump did a little show and tell yesterday from the White House. Jumped down to the White House. First of all, he went down to printing and graphics. He had him pitch up. He said, I need you to print up me 8 by 11 pictures of the worst criminals they're rounding up in Minnesota. And then he took those, and then he went down to the, okay, maybe he didn't do that, but that he did have graphics, and he took them to the press room, and he showed the press exactly as a little reminder what ICE is doing in their state. On top of that, one of the domestic terrorists, the communists, let's remember, that's what they are, that stormed the Minnesota church in St. Paul, the city's church. He's lawyered up, and he's directly challenging the attorney general to come arrest him. So I say, let's give him what he wants. That, as well as we got a new Senate, speaking of Minnesota, it seems like all the news is coming out of there these days. We've got a new Senate candidate out of Minnesota. You probably know her name because she's been on television for the last 30 years. We'll talk about all this stuff. A lot to get to today. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream and replay on X and YouTube and on Facebook and the audio podcast as well. Thank you so much for being here. And live every day, by the way, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Let's get to it. First of all, show and tell from Trump yesterday. And every once in a while he does this. Have you noticed he's not done this as much in this administration this time around, 2.0? Because, first of all, I think Caroline Leavitt has it pretty much handled in the press room. I've cleaned up a lot of that. They're getting the messaging out, so he hasn't had to. But every once in a while, he likes to go down there. Like I said, he went to printing and graphics, and he said, give me some pictures of the worst criminals in Minnesota. And then he went down there, and he said, I'm going to show you exactly, and remind you what ICE is doing. So this is what he got to. And then he went into the 2020 election stuff, but this was the first part.
I don't know how they can take the abuse. They're taking rough people like this, like all of them. We have 10,000 at least. I could have done 10,000 of them. You're lucky I only did like 100. And this isn't even the worst of the group. They have murderers. They have some people we can't use their picture for legal reasons, but they're up for murder in their own country. And we jeopardize their case. When we send them back and we coordinate with other countries. A tremendous amount of work.
And then he got into the election stuff. I got to say, after watching that again and hearing him, I think, now he's done this before with the graphics, with printed up pictures and sometimes charts in the press room. He's done that before. He's done it at live rallies, as we all know. I think in that case, he took a little bit of a cue and stole a little bit of material from Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, who we play at least once a week down here, because he's famous for that. He does the Polk County, Florida, which is Lakeland area, Central Florida. He does those press conferences where he has all the graphics and he makes fun of the criminals that they arrest just to remind people, because it's very effective and it's very persuasive. This was a little bit of that style. I know Trump has seen those videos of Sheriff Grady Judd. This is very similar. But anyway, as a reminder of what ICE is doing there and why it's so important, and for the people that don't get it, why they're, in some cases, for the fourth and fifth time, rounding up these violent criminals and getting the hell out of there. Why? Because he said it right there. Because they're fighting a justice system and a completely corrupt state government in Minnesota that keeps putting the criminals back on the street. And that's why it's necessary. Now, here's the other thing. If we've all learned in watching Trump for so many years now as president, what are you picking up on here? What do you see? Usually he does something like this. His own little press conference in the press room, impromptu, when something big is about to happen. I don't know, but I have a feeling, whether it's the Insurrection Act or not, kind of feels like something else bigger. As much as you think was going on in Minneapolis already, it just kind of feels like that was setting the stage and justifying something else bigger coming. I don't know. Maybe not. Or maybe it's setting the stage for going after some of the dirtbag communist rioter agitators, domestic terrorists, is what they are, that stormed that church in St. Paul over the weekend. Interesting development on this. So now one of the leaders, we know about Don Lemon, and we know that he's going to face some charges, because he coordinated the whole thing and documented it on film, on video. But the people he coordinated with, one of them, you ready for this? One of them, have you seen this guy, is called the Woke Farmer. Sadly, I think he's a vet, but he's a lunatic. And he is now lawyered up, and he is directly trying to bait Attorney General Pam Bondi into arresting him. This was his little press conference just yesterday. But then we're going to replay a little bit of this to remind you of what he actually did on this past Sunday.
I mean, what we're seeing around this country is they're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them. They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service. In fact, people were still praying the entire time. The music was still playing the entire time. So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it. And for all the people giving me death threats, threatening my life, kill me. Go ahead, kill me. Because
All right, look, he's obviously a lunatic. Nobody needs to point that out to you. But also, a couple of things here. Why does someone who has lawyered up, who was one of the domestic terrorist agitators that stormed a church, this is the red line in the sand for a lot of people, including me, that does that. Why does he directly challenge Attorney General Pam Bondi? I'm just going to ask you the question. Do you think possibly, it's because he thinks nothing's going to be done to him? The wheels of justice turn slowly. They know that. And there's also been a lot of speculation a year in now of the administration. She's had the job a year that nothing would be done to him. You think that's what they're gambling on? Maybe. But again, go back to Trump dropping the hammer at that show and tell press conference yesterday. Maybe something's a little different. Maybe something's cooking up. I don't know. Let me bring you back to something again. Not only is he insane, he's absolutely full of shit. Because let's go back again to something he said right there. I wasn't bothering anybody. Nothing was interrupted. Music was still playing. People were still praying. Oh, you know what they were doing? There were crying kids and families in there who were trying to remain silent as they were freaked out by what you did. What you did was a violent act. Let's go back. Let me rewind for just a second and go back to something he just said. We didn't interrupt any prayer service. And then this jump cuts to interrupting the prayer service.
They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers.
Latino and Somali brothers, right. But I didn't interrupt anything. No, all these privileged white people yelling at him, screaming in their face, banging drums and blowing whistles. And you didn't interrupt anything, though. No, you're a domestic terrorist. You're insane, but that's a you problem. And you need to be in handcuffs by the end of today. So if he wants to challenge Pam Bondi, go ahead. They should do something. I will tell you, if nothing is done, and there is, listen, they have to get their ducks in a row. Like I said, these things do take time. They're always reminding us of that. If they don't do anything to these domestic terrorists, though, that stormed that church, it pains me to say this, but I got to tell you, it's on them. It's on Pam Bondi. It's on the administration, because something is going to happen. I hope not. But some of these dirtbags are going to walk into the wrong church someday, and they're going to face a price that they did not expect. Don't know what that is. I'm never advocating violence, but people have had enough. And let me point this out. Did you notice that the woke farmer and the other assholes in his little troop there that were interrupting and frightening families and interrupting a church, a place of worship on a Sunday, even though we didn't do anything wrong? Do you notice that they never try this stuff at, let's say a Black Baptist church? Notice that? Notice that they didn't try this in a fire and brimstone kind of Pentecostal church. Or maybe a bunch of pissed off Catholics in New York or maybe Boston or Chicago. You notice that? They always pick on and try to get away with things of the meek. They would never, ever, ever, as much as tough talking as they do, they would never try this in an inner city church. Never, ever, ever. And they know that because they would not put up. I don't think that dude would still be walking today if they did. So let's see. It's on, he's directed the challenge to you. You should respond to it. He wants to be put in handcuffs. Do it. Make an example out of him and Don Lemon. Go ahead. We'll see. And I hate to say it, but if none of these people wind up in jail and paying a very, very heavy price, then you actually can drop the hammer on Pam Bondi. You got to do something. You have to. These people need to be in jail. That was, can't have it. Cannot have it. All right. Took a while, but I want to get to my favorite story of the day. I have found the most insane thing ever said on television. In fact, on The View. I know, like I said in the introduction, I'm not going to insult. I know you're not watching The View. I wouldn't insult you like that. But I bet you have somebody in your life that does. Some older parent, older relative, a friend, usually older, usually female. A lot of shut-ins. This is The View's audience these days, right? But the sad thing is, there's still an audience. The scary thing is, this was said by actress Pam Grier yesterday. Maybe she has a book or something coming out. I don't know why they were talking to her. This went completely and totally unchecked. This is the most insane lie, view or not, I've ever heard said on television. Listen to this entire thing and how nuts this is.
You faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, Ohio. How did that shape you?
Whew. Well, the military wouldn't allow black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there is someone hanging from a tree. And they have a memorial for it now.
I'm not laughing at that imagery. I mean, that is horrifying. But let me just do... Did you hear the audience too? Oh! Let me just do a little fact-checking here over what she just said. Pam Grier was born, in fact, the exact date here, was May 26, 1949. The last alleged lynching in Ohio was John Jordan, June 27th, 1911. 1911, she wasn't even born till 1949. Yeah, that, and completely, totally unchecked by those dingbats on that show, and they just let it go. And they just let it go. Now, most sane people, almost everybody, you play that for 100 people in a room, 99 of us are going to go, okay, that's not true at all, what you just said. But the one person that believes it is enough and too much that goes completely unchecked. There's no one. Okay, do you believe anything she said there? You believe anything she said about the base? You believe anything she said after telling that whopper of a lie? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard on television. That right there. I didn't watch it live either. I don't watch The View, but that's making the rounds and for good reason. It just goes to show you that as much as they're on their last dying days, that kind of programming and that kind of content, it's still out there. And as small and as shut in as it is, and as old, most likely, that still has an audience. That's what's crazy. That's insane. For now, anyway, until they finally go away, too. Who knows? All right, let's wrap it up with this. Get a new hat in the ring. It seems like all news is coming out of Minnesota these days, so let's do it again. Whoever thought, by the way, that Minnesota would be like the battleground of like everything going on? Are we going to have law and order? Are we going to have that kind of crime and corruption and violence that's happening in Minnesota? I don't know, but maybe this lady can change it. A new Senate candidate for the great state of Minnesota wants to fix things. She's from there, but then lived most of her life in California because she had a television career. You've probably seen her every single sporting event that mattered for the past 30 years. Michelle Tafoya. She's putting her name in the hat. This is her campaign video just released yesterday. This was the big news, and it's got, notice how these campaign videos from politicians, what she is now, always starts with the dramatic 1776 music and all the other stuff. But she has an interesting message here. Does she stand a shot to win this? I don't know. But here's her message.
For years, I covered the biggest football games in America. I walked the sidelines when the pressure was mounting and the stakes were the highest. That job taught me about more than football. It taught me about how leadership really works. When leaders are prepared and accountable, teams succeed. When they aren't, people pay the price. When I look at Minnesota and Washington today, I see politicians selling out honest, hardworking people like you. I see massive government fraud exploding on Tim Walz's watch, ripping off taxpayers and embarrassing our state.
strong message. I get it. And I can hear the criticism already. Now, this will probably come out in full force today. What does a sports reporter know about running a state? Oh, okay. The counter argument that is an easy one, and I hope she jumps on this. Well, the politicians that have been running your state, or she'll say, I guess, our state, have run it into the ground. There's massive corruption, and look at the street. Look at the madness that's happening in the streets right now. It should be low-hanging fruit for her. It should be easy for her to win this. Will she? I don't know. And I used to be one of those people, too, that's against public figures running for office all the time. I think Trump changed all of that because he had enough money and enough name recognition where he didn't care what they said about him. He's like, I can't be bought. I don't care. And that's why he was such a threat. So at least for now, until we fix things and common sense rules in the country again, yeah, I'm okay with big name people like Michelle Tafoya, who does have a massive audience. There's no doubt about it, running for political seats. Maybe that's what it takes. Probably, most likely, the last thing in the world she wanted to do when she left television was to do this. I do get the feeling that she wants to fix her state. I do. I think she's earnest about it. Will it work? I don't know. Probably going to see more and more of that, though. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Again, what's the takeaway? You'll see a difference in these church rioters like the Doe woke farmer who's lawyering up now. Keep this in mind when you think that this is going to break out all over the country. They don't try this in inner city churches. They don't try this kind of crap, storming a Sunday service for a black Southern church. They don't try this with pissed off Catholics. Ever notice that? They try it with the nice people. Maybe they're not going to be nice anymore. So keep that in mind. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Wicked Radio live stream, live 8 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through, if I can talk, 8 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday on X and on YouTube and on Facebook, and then the replay on those channels as well. Audio podcast about to be posted on your favorite podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe there as well. I appreciate you. It's Wednesday. Let's make it a wicked awesome one. I'll talk to you tomorrow.